This is the Authenticity in the Ethics of Human Enhancement by Muriel Leuenberger in the Routledge Handbook of Ethics of Human Enhancement. So this is good. This is a book chapter, which is interesting. So it's not a journal thing, but like usually it's pretty good, but like sometimes there's a little bit more overview in these. But this is my first time reading it. Feel free to ask questions along the way. And at the end, we judge what they had to say, whether it was worth it or not. Last time we read a paper, it was kind of like an introductory essay to like a topic. This time we're reading something that looks like a established sort of like topic that we're going to get into. So let me know if you have any questions. And here we get off to it. By Ivan's girlfriend, exactly. So, yeah, Ivan, you should have introduced me to these people. Okay. As always, feel free to ask questions. Okay. Human enhancement technologies can potentially change one's personality, mood, body, capabilities, traits, and other characteristics. This extensive potential for self-change has raised concerns about authenticity. Is the enhanced human being still authentic? Can you be true to yourself after changing yourself? Okay. This, like, already, I just want to be, like, jumping out. Like, you know, there's always a discussion in, like, the, you know, like, if you're not a straight white male, a lot of times, a lot of other people that aren't just sort of, like, the straight white male have to adapt to get by in, like, life. And so the idea is, like, if you have to change yourself, if you even want to put your face on, like, you put makeup on, what do you mean? Like, can you be more authentic through enhancement? People feel like they need to, like, you know, put just like makeup on. You have to do your hair, whatever it is. Like, there's like put clothes on. It's like, even at the simple level, can you be true to yourself after changing yourself? Like, what kind of change? Like, because just putting, like, doing your hair, doing your face, whatever that is, that counts as some sort of change. It isn't how you woke up. So, yeah. Nice, what are those? A little, mints, those things, what are those called? The things you get on what's that holiday coming up? Valentine's Day, yeah. Is penile reduction a human enhancement? It could be, because I mean, you could have like a donkey dick, and like that could be basically unusable, and so you would be getting something fixed because it would be like basically unusable. Yeah, sweethearts, thank you, Sock now. So it depends on what the problem is, you know. I mean, I understand that you have these problems, Vipers, yes. Do you only read text from this site? What site? Anaresto. I read text from Kick too. No one's in the Kick thing. I think I'm streaming on Kick as well, so it's like, yeah. But no one's on Kick at the moment, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I've got no viewers there. I might one day go back to streaming on YouTube. Because my YouTube, actually, I post all my videos to YouTube. The highlights of just me reading these papers, and I've got a good amount of people on YouTube, so I should actually put more time into that. But even body mods and decoration isn't considered effeminate. No. But like, it's not prettifying. It's like doing the things you do for putting your face on, like just to go out. What's the most manliest movie scene ever? I don't know. That's a good question. Sinister Max says, every moment we present in any situation when we know we may be observed, we are actors in theater. Exactly. In Phil Papers, yeah, Anaresto, I do read stuff from other places, but Phil Papers is a professional philosophy aggregator. It has a lot of published philosophy, and so that's my general place I take papers from. If you want me to read other stuff, I've read, you know, news articles, popular philosophy stuff, a lot of other places, but yeah. Yeah, even putting a metal hat on. Yeah, sure. Dylan, you son of a bitch. Exactly. But yeah, are we being set up? Because like, but that's exactly the point, is that Sinister Monox is making a good point. You don't even need to do anything physical. You can act in a certain way. You could put on airs, as they used to say in the old times. You can act in certain ways to, like, you know, I remember when Robert Downey Jr. got the bit for Iron Man, and he said when he like, at the time his career was kind of in the dumps, and Iron Man really put him back as a top flight actor. He said, so at the time it wasn't a given that he was going to get the part, but I mean, he got the audition, but he said, for that 2 minutes, I could act like the coolest man that ever lived. He was acting, but he said for those like 2 minutes during his like audition, he acted like the coolest guy ever. And like, that is a technology, the acting technology, that Robert Downey Jr. knows how to implement. And so he was able to do that and get himself a part. Uh, using Google Translate, you like reading books. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, I read book chapters. I read other stuff too. But like, yeah, it's mostly professional philosophy. What is this? Yes, exactly. So yeah, we've got and you can see Arnold is dressed up in camouflage here. So like he had to do something to enhance himself. But like, yeah. So that's of course from what the fuck is that called? Now you see, the first thing that goes on me is word recognition, pulling it back up. So Predator. Yes, thank you, Vipers. Yeah. Well, I think I answered the question, Vipers, from Anna, so I hope so. Let me know if I didn't. Systemic says, if in fact you didn't act, the problem would be that one which, behaving impolitely, they presented in a full, authentic form. Yeah, that's true too. So sometimes you are expected to act in certain ways. Yeah. So yeah, there's social norms you have to adhere to at different points, and you may not want to, but like it is the way you have to go. So again, just from this immediate get-go, I have like weird questions about what counts as your like authentic self, because we are constantly in the situation where we have to do stuff. Some people pay good money for full body mud masks. Exactly. I mean, they are doing it for different reasons than Arnold did it in that movie, but it's still a good idea at times. Yeah. Okay. Authenticity has been recognized as a central concept in the ethics of human enhancement. Early on in the debate, authenticity was understood as a matter of either self-discovery or self-creation. Self-discovery accounts of authenticity claim that to be authentic, one has to find the stable, if not unchanging, and innate true self and live according to it. Yeah, so this got brought up, and I was saying this is not what I was reading. So this would be the essential self that is you, whatever that is. Yeah, Predator. Thank you, Anaresta. This view is inspired by Jean-Jacques Rousseau and the Romantics. Self-creation accounts deny the existence of an individual essence. Yeah, and this is the other thing. It's not an individual essence that was given to you. It is one that you create for yourself. Instead, we have to freely create ourselves in order to be authentic. This tradition is rooted in the existentialist philosophy, notably Jean-Paul Sartre, the works of Friedrich Nietzsche, and Soren Kierkegaard. Enhancement technologies have been considered as threatening authenticity by leading us astray from the true self. At the same time, some authors have argued that enhancement technologies can help us become authentic by proving means for self-creation. A currently wide agreed upon view states that the self-discovery as well as self-creation accounts of authenticity are capturing important intuitions, but also making empirically and metaphysically questionable assumptions. The idea that we have an individual essence deep down that remains untouched by external influences seems unlikely, as does the possibility of a radically free act of self-creation. Hey, Valpo. Hope the semester has started off well for you, if it has started off. Yeah, I actually, Valpo, I am touching upon existentialist philosophy in one of the things I'm working on. So I've been talking about authenticity and referencing Kierkegaard today. And it's just like, so now we're reading something on authenticity that was suggested by chat. Okay, therefore, in the philosophical debate, such strong versions of self-discovery and self-creation views are rarely anymore adopted. Yeah, I mean, like, the idea that, like, we're going to find something deep down, a core thing, is just, unless we have some very sort of strong understanding of, like, psychological or biological determinism, seems unlikely. And that would not really work in the sense that we are still reacting to our like lived lives in the society. So the idea that there's like some core that is unchanging regardless of what's happening around us seems very suspicious. And that's a metaphysical argument that the outside has nothing to do with what is going on inside of you. Like that just is weird. Ivan says, does authenticity and existentialism have a meaning distinct from the normal English meaning? Well, you'd have to tell me what the normal English meaning of it then is, because it over the 20th century, the idea of authenticity was very much affected by the existentialist writings. So there are these throwbacks to sincerity. So like you need to be your sincere self. And so it came out of talk like that. I think from Jean-Jacques Rousseau, like what is it to be sincere to yourself? Yeah. So, oh, okay, so it's a misreading of Kierkegaard, but an understandable one. Evo Psych is valid, yeah. Well, we are currently just hand waving at other theories. We have not gotten ourselves anywhere yet. These are just hand waves. So it's like, yeah. Barry, what's up, Barry? How you been? Merry Xmas, Happy New Year, and all that. I'm moving very slowly into 2025. Yeah, I'm still locked in 1999, so that's fine. Yeah, I may actually bother you for some like better takes on Kierkegaard one of these days, Valpo. Uh, Chocolate says there's maybe a judgment that authenticity is good or preferred. Yes, it's supposed to be a contemporary virtue, is the way I kind of understand existentialists referring to it, is that authenticity is a virtue to have. Yeah, anyway, if anyone doesn't know Barude, he is also a philosophy streamer. We should give him a shout out. He is on the continental side of the world. He is an expert in charisma and like the philosophy surrounding charisma. He's writing his PhD on that. Maybe written now, I don't know. But like that's an interesting topic. So if you are interested in like the social relations, the like the existential relations, what it is to have charisma, or as the kids call it, Riz nowadays, he's actually an expert on this. So yeah. I have, Sinister Max says, I have been frankly amazed in my philosophy career and how often we encounter the basic problem of defining words. That's all we're doing. I mean, Nietzsche was a philologist. That's all the definitions are. It's everything. Well, I would say also the idea of conviction and authenticity. That's fair, Sock. I don't know, though. Yeah. You think this is my continental pivot? Ha. I've always had a nasty phenomenology habit, so I'm not really gonna go like hardcore. Like I'm not gonna go hardcore continentalist, but like I do have some. I do have some weird. I'm promiscuous. I say I'm promiscuous in my philosophy. I have the things I do, but I like to dabble in other places. Systemic says, we all agree that authenticity is dependent on the person's mindset. For example, if a person believes himself to be funny but isn't, is he inauthentic in trying to tell jokes? Well, the question, that's a great question, Systemic. Like, if you're talking about the authenticity as the existentialists mean it, I'd have to defer to them. I'm not even sure. I don't want to speak for them because I'm not very good. Philosophy of Riz, exactly, Valpo. Well, I mean, Barude, compared to all the rest of us, yeah, you are an expert. Rizology, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, Barude is Australian, so time zones, So that's the issue. He's not always around when the rest of us in the Western world are awake. Yeah. Should I go troll him? Yes, you should definitely go troll him sometimes. Chalky the cat. Do you think there's something lost from decency by leaning into authenticity? Like it could lead to rudeness or something like that. I'm just saying that as an example. I was thinking about leaning into one aspect of human existence is like the swinging of the pendulum. Yes, that is a known problem of this. Like there's a lot of philosophies that basically when you say, well, whatever you are, be a good one. So what if you're an asshole? Does that mean be a really good asshole and be really good at it? That criticism goes all the way back to Aristotle's virtue ethics. So the existentialists deal with this in various ways. One of the basic ways they deal with that is that freedom is always freedom with other people. You are never like by yourself in freedom. And so if you are being an asshole, then you are impinging upon other people's freedom. And so freedom for yourself is always freedom for other people. You are in an emancipatory project in some sense. So yes, Chalky, but like they have to account for this. Barude says charisma as a social phenomenon versus the Weber, Durkheim, Freud, Australian and old and lazy. Yeah, but we're all Australian and old and lazy. Barude, what's your point? Continental by way of Australia. Yes, the most streamers you watch are New Zealand. Yeah. I mean, I watch a bunch of Aussie streamers too. So yeah, the Dr. House Gambit. Yeah. Be a dick. But like that was the House Gambit. Is that you can be a dick, but if you are always like you know more, you're better at something than other people, you're still needed, and so you can't be ignored even if you're a complete asshole. I suggest don't be like that. Don't be an asshole, and then people will still deal with you, and you don't need to. Then you can also learn stuff and be a good person. Joe, what's up? My wife is a social worker, and authenticity is often confused as virtue. Be true to yourself is very difficult for someone who has no confidence in their own judgment. Yeah, see, that's part of the issue here is we have to get narrowed down what we mean and be clear because, if there's someone that lacks confidence, then there is nothing that they can refer back to. Now you're telling me we want recognition from someone equal to us. You know, that's a good question. Do I need to free up like terrible bad people? I don't know, K-Pars. Like again, this is from my gloss of existentialism, that the way you are looking for your own freedom is not to be an asshole, but it's for like a general emancipatory thing. But like, who actually counts as a person then? That's always been a problem. And, you know, going back to Kant, philosophers do not always do very well at that sort of answer either. Chalky says that kind of leads into the social contract, right? Like, but with authenticity, but with accountability. That's how they're trying to square the circle here, Chalky. I don't know if it works. I'm just giving you my gloss of what I've read. I'm not an expert in existentialism. If you want to ask me something about philosophical logic, I might have something clever to say. But like, this is the best I can do at the moment. Since America says, it seems to me that authenticity can be gauged only by internal conviction and emotion. Like how I know there are times when I fucking lose it on some self-righteous asshole. You're in DC, it happens a lot. I believe that. I don't even have the time or mental cycles for you to decide how to project myself. I think that's just a fundamental core of authenticity. I know it's really me because it connects and resonates as me. Yeah, so that's part of the issue. What are you resisting? What is it that you want to like protect in yourself to make your decisions? I think that's a good gloss. I don't know. Sakna says, like, my thing is, what if convictionist pushes them into generations of identity, like authenticity? Authenticity can be pushed by conditions present or historical. Yeah, so that's a good question. Why the now? But like, maybe you have more of a historical identity that you like better. That's a great question. I don't know, because that would be maybe, yeah. So cultures that, you know, aren't as individualistic as like Western Europe was when the existentialists were generating a lot of their stuff, you might have to think of this in different ways. And that's a good criticism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're getting out of the self-discovery and self-creation thing. K-Par says, I was kind of riffing off the phenomenology of spirit, where the point is that you dominate someone looking for recognition. You won't be fulfilled. Your freedom and subjectivity depend on recognition of an equal other. Oh, you're doing the, okay. Hegelian stuff. Yeah, so a lot of what I understand the history is people reacting against Hegel because they were really annoyed with the sort of view from nowhere, the universalized view of like, you know, how are we supposed to see ourselves in like the course of human history across the entire world? And they were like, no, you have to figure out what your situation is in the here and now. You exist here, you exist now. Your existence is what matters, not some grand narrative over history. So yeah, they were reacting against Hegel. Since DC just informed me that they like you too, Maddie. Oh, that's nice of DC. And they now wonder why that counts as an authentic statement. Yeah. Okay. Nonetheless, it seems true that on the one hand, there are parts of ourselves we can hardly change, which may feel particularly true to who we are, and on the other hand, that we can undertake projects of self-creation and actively change who we are. It seems that authenticity is best understood as an ideal guiding us between the constraints and possibilities of self-change. Yeah, and this is nothing new. This is just them glossing on some of the results of 20th century existentialist writing. In the last decade, a plethora of novel distinctions, specifications, and definitions of authenticity have been added to the debate. The conditions for authentic self-change, as well as how the truth self should be expressed, have been worked out in more detail. The crude distinction between the self-discovery and self-creation accounts is no longer particularly useful to navigate this dense landscape of definitions of authenticity. This chapter takes a step back and maps the different accounts of authenticity to provide a more nuanced taxonomy of authenticity and reveal the emerging underlying structures of this concept. Okay, so this is interesting. They're saying, fuck all of this shit. We're not going to take a stand. What we're going to do is take the overarching view of authenticity, see where that lands us in terms of what we can then do about ourselves to either become more authentic or what changes we can take with respect to authenticity. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so you guys can talk about that, but like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. So social culturalism and how like cultures over time will matter for your identity too. I think that's right. Salk now. Yeah. And then there's the question of social things, and then what do you count as technology? Because there's institutions, and so there's social institutions, like be it government, be it like social support networks, all that stuff, and how do you can define yourself in terms of those things, and so those are technologies of culture and how those can affect your life as well. Yep. Your religions, things like this. Okay, authenticity is a complex, multi-dimensional concept, but it is possible to pinpoint some shared guiding ideas across different accounts of authenticity. In the following three kinds of conditions for authentic creation and change of the true self are identified: coherence, endorsement, and relations, as well as that the true self should be expressed in one's self-conception, self-presentation, and one's body, emotions, and actions. Based on this analysis, the hopes and concerns human enhancement raises for authenticity are discussed. The effects of enhancement technologies on authenticity is multifaceted. Enhancement technologies do not threaten or foster authenticity across the board, but affect different dimensions of authenticity individually. This chapter furthermore argues that the debate on authenticity and the ethics of human enhancement would profit from a more extended discussion on which accounts of authenticity are morally or prudentially valuable and why, as well in which circumstances they have a prudential appeal. Religion, language, music, stuff like this. Yep, yeah, exactly. So things that do, like, these things have importance over time. And Arresto says, I was reading Sharon. He criticized Nietzsche's will to power. In fact, Nietzsche is not very interesting because his philosophy is more linked to what he talks about in Beyond Good and Evil than in Zarathustra. In addition to his books returning to more to theism, especially at the end, he makes some senseless criticism of Schopenhauer nihilism, calling Christianity nihilistic to put the same balance. It's interesting, but from a more deistic perspective, it doesn't make sense to you. Okay. I don't know enough Sharon to speak on Sharon's criticisms of Nietzsche. I will say that from my perspective, I think Nietzsche did a lot of great things in his philosophy. I don't think he was ultimately successful in some of his projects. So there are, I think, legit criticisms of Nietzsche. I don't know which one Sharon is keying into, or if that has anything to do with what I think about criticisms of Nietzsche. But I always felt Nietzsche never quite achieved his goal of overcoming. I felt he was very tied to the language he used of the time too. So yeah. Okay. Changing and creating the true self. Unless we assume that the true self is an innate, unchanging essence, which it is as most authors in the debate agree, empirically and metaphysically implausible, there must be conditions for how to authentically create and change the true self. I identified three main concepts that provide conditions for creating and changing the true self that can be found across many different accounts of authenticity: coherence, endorsement, and relations. These three concepts often interact with each other and overlap in authenticity accounts. All right, let me make a small comment here. Anytime you're doing this sort of high level, what is going on, you're basically giving a few heuristics. And the issue is they work on the most cases and not the best case scenario, the most usual examples. The edge cases, sometimes they fall down. And so the question is, what are you actually accomplishing with this here? The idea is to give people a heuristic to talk about the problems, but you're not going to get at a lot of times you won't get anything too deep with this strategy. The question is, will this be able to draw out anything important in the discussion? And so it's more of a practical, pragmatic thing that's going on here. Okay, coherence. A crucial element in many accounts of authenticity is that they demand a form of coherence of the true self. The individual should maintain or establish a coherence of the true self in both authentic self-creation and self-change. We can distinguish two kinds of coherence of the self: synchronic and diachronic coherence. Socknow says, yeah, syphilis is probably coming from some sort of ulcerative colitis or some sort of Crohn's disease. Nietzsche couldn't complete his things. I feel for him even today. Yeah, he got sick, and he was never healthy, and then he probably had syphilis that rotted his brain. So it was not a happy end. That's fair. I mean, it's always a dangerous thing to give a philosopher an out. because then you're saying, well, could he have fixed it? Maybe, but I don't like doing it. But you can feel bad for the man, but I don't like giving people philosophical passes just in general, because you don't always know if it was actually the sickness or was it just they decide to not put the effort in the philosophy. Chalky says it's interesting that they categorize authenticity into 3 different concepts. I think it kind of helps for organization of thoughts about authenticity. Exactly, Chalky, but I think that's kind of where they're getting at. But he did love his horses, yes, K-Pars. For anyone who doesn't know, the last act of like Nietzsche's saneness was hugging a horse, and then he collapsed and was never the same again. And then there's a pain in the ass history with his sister and how his work got appropriated, but it's different. Like in Nietzsche's life, he always was like well groomed, good looking, like not good looking. He looked good. He put himself together, and then like his sister played up like the mad philosopher thing afterwards, and so it's like a lot of bad shit happened. It's sad. That part is very sad. Okay, so syncrotic coherence is the coherence of a network of characterizations at a particular time. In a synchronically coherent self, a person's dispositions, traits, values, beliefs, and other characteristics at a given time make sense in the light of each other. They are connected to each other in a structured hierarchies, creating a mutually supportive network of characteristics. In terms of an account of authenticity, this means that features of the self which are part of such a coherent network are considered authentic and should not be changed, or only gradually or piecemeal. Like Nuret's raft, to maintain the coherent network. An authentic person is not ambivalent in their core wishes and values. There may be conflicts, but the authentic individual has to take a clear stance for one side or the other. Yeah, so this is basically saying it all has to make sense at one time. I'm not sure that actually works, but that's the idea with coherence, is that everything has to make sense as much as you can possibly make it at that one time. Chalky says that may be all they get in this paper, but organization of thoughts can lead to further things. I think that's what they're going for. And that's what I was pointing out up here when I highlighted this, is that I think that's all that they're going for in this paper, is to try to give a nice way of describing the problem to maybe make it tractable, to make it something we can talk about. Harry Frankfurt develops an account of authenticity based on synchronic coherence in his later work on wholeheartedness. He argues that ambivalence in our higher order of volitions, effective desires about effective desires, can be resolved through a wholehearted decision. Through wholehearted decisions, we constitute who we authentically are. Without going into the details of Frankfurt's view, the idea of an authentic person he introduces is one who is not conflicted or ambivalent, but settles internal conflicts through wholehearted decisions. Those decisions both define us and constrain our will while freeing us from uncertainty. More recently, Pugh, Maslin, and Savulescu have introduced a similar account of authenticity based on synchronic coherence. They argue that the true self is composed of the coherent, that is mutually compatible, elements of the individual's values and rational beliefs. Exactly, suck now. Hand wave, structure, coherence, non-contradiction. Like, these are big ideas, and it's, like, if this is helping you organize your thoughts, good. But, like, Chalky just pointed out, it's an organizational question at the moment. That's all it is. Like, does this structure help you? Enhancement technologies could threaten authenticity in terms of syncrotic coherence if they introduce characteristics that do not cohere with the individual's networks of core beliefs and values, if they change this cohering set of characteristics or wholehearted choices which constitute the true self. A person undergoing moral enhancement could, for example, change their core commitments and coherent values. The true self may then no longer be a synchronically coherent unity. Enhancement technologies can provide us with the ability to modify the true self in ways that render the change unintelligible in light of the rest of the cohering set of beliefs and values. Alright, so imagine we've got a through and through racist, just a shitty ass person. They hate minorities, they hate everyone that's not their color, blah blah blah, they suck. And now we have like an injection that makes them not racist. And it only changes that one aspect of them. So now they're like, yeah, minorities are cool. The rest of them is still a terrible person, but like they have this one thing that they're just like not entirely terrible because now they think minorities, they're judging them individually, not by just something like the skin color or where they were born. And it's like, well, that's kind of weird if you can change one thing like without touching the rest of it. And so this is the weirdness of this. It says like, well, what is the true self? Well, if you have an enhancement technology, it shouldn't be like that would fuck with that person's true self of just being a piece of shit. Okay. But like that's an interesting thought experiment. You think, well, could we fix them? And then could you fix it like piecemeal? And the idea is like, well, if they're authentic, then you're not fixing it piecemeal. You're fixing the whole setup of being a terrible person. Okay. However, it is also possible that enhancement technologies make users more authentic by helping them to overcome their present incoherence or to fully commit themselves to a life project. Through physical enhancement, a devoted athlete could manage to pursue a professional sports career and fully commit to this life project. Various forms of mental enhancement, for instance, increased focus and concentration, could similarly help to stick to a commitment or give mental strength to an act in accordance with one's coherent sets of values. Chucky says, the subject is interesting to me because I'm working on a large painting that's all about identity right now. Oh, that's cool. You're a painter. It's a portrait made up of small circles, kind of like pointillism, and the circles will further be made to have memes and ideas on them like badges or pins. So up close it looks like that, but step back and you get a person. Yeah, it's fun. But couldn't you be authentically deceived? I think you have to be a little bit, like, be more specific, K-Pars. Like, yes, of course, but, like, what exactly do you mean there? Shocky says, kind of like the many things that make up one thing like coherence. Yeah. Dojo says, last time I watched it was the sororities of defining sexual partners, and this time is the sororities of identity and authenticity. Yes, everything's a sororities problem, but that's why it's called philosophy roulette. Like, roulette. I don't know what I'm going to read. I read everything within reason. But like, yeah, I don't do things that are with too many formulas because I can't explain all the formulas. But like, yeah, it's roulette. I don't know what I'm reading. This is my first time reading it. I fuck things up. It's gonna happen. But like, we find out. So yeah. Like, yes. Okay, according to a diachronic coherence views, the authenticity of a person or one of their characteristics cannot be assessed by considering a specific moment or time slice. At a given time, the values, beliefs, desires, and other characteristics of a person need not be coherent and may be conflicting and ambivalent. However, a person's progression over time should display an element of coherence. Yeah, and so that's why if there's a hard break in your beliefs about like a certain minority, that would be weird for this sort of like authentic like trajectory line. Yeah, so this is a trajectory basically. You have to have a consistent trajectory. Now, that may not mean that like every spot has to be uniform. You may make small jumps from here to there, but there has to be a line. I mean, what does it mean to be truly or fully misled by something or someone? Like I say, you were being an asshole because you were in a cult. Okay, that's fair. So say you were in a cult, but you did it for the right reasons. You really thought you were helping the world. You really felt like the leader had an access to like the fundamental reality, understood what was going on, and through the cult, you may have ended up contributing to some shitty things. In this view, you were being coherent over time, even though you did contradictory bad stuff because your heart was in the right place. You were trying to do the right thing as you saw at the time. You may have had some misguided ideas. So that's what it would be, is that this is the old you, or your heart was in the right place. That it's sometimes not a good enough excuse. Like, you should have known better. It's like, oh yeah, like you're killing like these innocent people because for like some grand scheme. It's like, you should have known not to kill the kids. Yeah. But like, I see that, but like you can see how authentically you started off maybe through no fault of your own. You just got some bad education, some bad social, whatever it was, and you got yourself into a situation that you did not realize was as bad as it was. A conservative Verk, what's up? Welcome in. An authentic person. Deception is a real deception, but it was actually done and was effective. That's what you mean. But logically, it seems like a contradiction. Deception belies the idea of authenticity. I mean, maybe conservative Verk. the idea that you can do, like, you can be, like, morally, like, you think you do something for the right reasons. It's like, well, we are all limited in our processing power. We all are only so smart. Like, we can only all think of so many consequences. And so given the limited information that we have, and some people, you know, we've got bad information, it's like, it's very hard. And you might be sympathetic to, you know, some people's plight every so often. I mean, just because someone was deceived or deceived themselves, you might think they've done something bad, like they've, like, deceived themselves, and that's bad. But, like, you know, depending on what's going on, I can see how there might be some people who'd be like, well, you know, I understand what happened there. But yeah. Doty says Muriel Leuenberger's other papers reference the narrative authenticity, a path to your true self is through your life experiences. Yeah, there's definitely a narrative flavor to these things. Yeah. Okay, and so, yeah, this person does write on these topics. Interesting, Dojo. Thanks for the reference. But yeah, it's like, is this a linguistic problem, or is there more going on here? Like, can people, you know, fool themselves, and maybe there's something defective with them? Maybe there's something defective and we should point that out. Like, man, those people are nuts and this is why. But maybe you can be sympathetic at times too and say, hey, look, given where they started out, this didn't seem as crazy as it ended up being. There's different views. I mean, I'm not saying you should forgive people for doing terrible things, but you should at least try to understand what happened. Okay. Accounts of authenticity in terms of diachronic coherence tend to be based on a narrative conception of the self. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, that you can, like, there is ways to parse it then, conservative work. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, this narrative view seems like what's going on here. The narrative self-view claims that the self is constituted by the internalized, ongoing story of your life, the self-narrative in which you integrate your experiences, values, beliefs, and other personal characteristics. Elsewhere, I introduce a conception of narrative authenticity, according to which an authentic person has an accurate and coherent self-narrative that depicts a well-defined person. Yeah, what the fuck is a well-defined person, though? Like, you have a view of a well-defined person, and then you are cohering with that. But I mean, doesn't that beg the question? Like, is there an independent view of a well-defined person? And that would sort of violate authenticity, that you are having to deal with this sort of external view. I'm not sure. This account, continuing, this account focuses on self-knowledge or self-understanding as an important dimension of authenticity. Through a coherent self-narrative, we make ourselves intelligible to others and to ourselves. Diachronic coherence in narrative terms means that one's beliefs, values, actions, etc. make sense in light of each other, not because they are not conflicting, but because we can make sense of how they came to coexist within an individual through their integration in the wider context of the narrative of their life. Yeah, and so this is what I was saying, is like, you can understand what's going on, even if you think it's stupid and contradictory. You're afraid where there's going when we get into ethics? Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Even conflicting elements and radical changes can be accounted for in the narrative and become mutually supportive through self-narrative. A person who always wanted to change a feature of herself but refused to do so once given the chance would be diachronically incoherent, even if she would be synchronically coherent. Euler argues that we should not change central aspects of our narrative identity where it might be tempting to do so unless it arises out of commitment that was already part of the narrative self. Through the previous commitment, the narrative retains diachronic coherence through self-change. Yeah, so okay, you have to have a story about yourself, and that's what yourself is. The authentic self is related to this story you're telling yourself. And I can see where Dojo is afraid. What if the story you're telling is a shitty fucking story? Like, sticking to your story, sticking to your guns may be a terrible thing. Okay. A different notion of diachronic coherence can be found in accounts that define authenticity as being reached through experimental self-finding projects. If today is a name. If today, with reference to Nietzsche's notion of brief habits, argues that authenticity is not just to be found in permanent traits, values, beliefs, and commitments we maintain over time, but in those that we continually come back to after experimenting with the other perspectives and mindsets. Even in an idea of the path to authenticity as fundamentally changing and experimental, the true self is understood as revealed in the recurring elements that build a version of diachronic coherence. Yeah, so I guess this would be like, you're testing stuff out. You're bouncing around, and then you start leaning one direction. So, you're doing one of these bounded issues. So you've got like a bounding box that's getting tighter and tighter over time to be the sort of person you want to be, to generate the sort of narrative that you want to have. So you might have like done some crazy shit in your youth, but then when you get older, you start to narrow down the stuff that you want to be. Okay. The experimental notion of authenticity is clearly in favor of enhancement technologies. By letting us explore new ways of being, enhancement technologies could help us find out who we truly are and who we continuously come back to be. For this experimental notion of authenticity, it would be particularly important that the enhancement is reversible. The narrative account of diachronic coherence is more ambivalent towards enhancement technologies. So this is interesting because this would be like everyone should go into acting. Like, you should all learn how to, take on different ways of being in the world. So, like, this is an interesting point that, like, you should at least try out different personalities and stuff like that. Because you can take those off. Okay, in case the enhancement would lead to a very sudden change that is hard to account for through the self-narrative, it could disrupt its coherence. Yeah, I mean, if you put on, clothes that radically change what you look like, you could imagine a racist person, a racist white guy from the South or something. And I'm sorry to any Southerners, but there are racist people down there. And you make them put on a black person suit and have to experience what it's like in a racist area of town. I mean, that would be terrible. It'd be an interesting experiment to see what would happen, and it would be something completely immoral. Don't do that. But you could see that the enhancement technology of getting the authentic experience of a minority in a racist part of the world might change your perspective on stuff, or it might not. It might be terrible. Yeah. Oh man, it may make them even more racist. But yeah, I could see how testing things out might matter. Okay. In case the enhancement would lead to a very sudden change, yeah, it's hard to account for. Yeah, that's what disrupt the coherence. That's what I was saying. You actually go try stuff out. You find out that it's terrible. Maybe that would fuck with your head. Maybe that's dangerous. We don't know. Maybe we don't want to do that. Okay. This would, however, not necessarily mean that we should refrain from such enhancement technologies, because even sudden change could leave the option of adjusting the self-narrative to integrate it. A shy person enhancing himself to be more communicative, so liquid courage, and going out might first experience the enhancement as a disruption of narrative coherence, but he may connect the change to his long-standing wish of being more outgoing and his previous attempts to overcome his shyness. This would also be in line with Erler's condition that changing central elements of the narrative self are authentic if they are in line with previous commitments. Furthermore, enhancement technology can promote diachronic coherence. Memory enhancement would be a particularly powerful tool to make sense of one's past and construe a coherent self-narrative. Intelligence enhancements could have similar effects. Kapar says, there's some narratives we have of ourselves that can also hurt us. The whole idea behind narrative therapy is to change that sort of story about us and what we're like and what we've been through. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff that could go on with this. And people, of course, avoid thinking of themselves as terrible. Or they do it too much if they're depressed or something along those lines. But you have to change these thoughts, and that could be extremely disruptive. And Arresto comes back about Chiron. Chiron's criticism of Nietzsche is this, in other words, quote, the will to power is not the ascent of life because it can be strong without having anything. As suffering appears, we realize that the world should not be taken seriously. As it grows, we realize that it does not deserve seriousness. The conflict arises between the sensations of suffering that attribute an absolute value to external causes and the world, and the theoretical perspective arising from suffering by which the world is nothing. Okay, yeah, so Nietzsche is trying to overcome the world. Chiron is saying you're trying to overcome something that is silly and ridiculous, going with the absurdity line. Fair. That sounds very forward thinking, to be honest. It sounds just that's the absurdity line from 20th century philosophy that Chiron had earlier. So yeah, but it's like, what is the world that we are trying to live in? And we have to like, and Nietzsche was positing too much, giving the world too much credit at that point. Fair. Dojo says, can you explain why we are distinguishing synchronic and diachronic coherence when both are valid and missing some knowledge of linguistics? So the synchronic is like the here and now. At any given point, you don't actually have to make perfect sense. It's very difficult to make perfect sense of everything all at once. Like, just is. Like, there's a lot of moving parts in your life. You don't know all the things going on with all your relationships. So you do the best you can in your daily life at any given point. But that's not going to work, like, in terms of, like, logical coherence. You're just not going to be able to do it. No one can. The diachronic says, look, over time, you should be getting rid of more and more of the contradictory things to be more and more coherent. So that's why there's, like, the diachronic is over time, you are supposed to be knocking out things that do not work for you. You're supposed to be knocking out the contradictions. And so that's the narrative solution here in the coherence part of the this paper, because you are becoming more and more coherent over time. At any given point, you have to be like, okay, certain things work together. That's the synchronic, but over time, you're supposed to be getting better at being less contradictory. Does that help? Let me know. All right, endorsement. The second central idea for changing and creating the true self, authentically found across different accounts, is that authentic aspects of the self, for example, desires, actions, traits, or self-creation projects, are those we identify with or endorse. These can either be understood synchronically as endorsing a set of mental states, dispositions, or actions, or diachronically as endorsing the causal history of an action or of how one acquired a mental state or disposition. Carpe diem versus work for the future, exactly. So there's always, what are you doing now? Like, where are you at? And then, like, what are your plans? But, like, exactly. It's just the the ancient distinction between what are your current powers and what are your potentials. This goes back to Aristotle. I mean, a lot of this is very, it tends to be very friendly to virtues. So, Aristotelian metaphysics. Thank you for the lurk, Nibiru. Appreciate it. Yeah, where was I? Okay. Examples of the former would be Frankfurt's account introduced above, which defines authenticity in terms of a wholehearted identification with one's volitions, or Pew et al.'s account, according to which the true self is constituted by the cohering and rationally endorsed element of the self. The individual identifies with certain features of the self or self changes and endorses them as part of their true self. A diachronic view of authenticity as endorsement would be De Grazia's account. He argues that self-creation projects are authentic if they are autonomous and honest. For instance, a woman who undergoes cosmetic surgery to conform to sexist standards of beauty would be acting authentically if she is aware of her sexist socialization and its impact on her desires and seriously considered alternatives. It's like, yeah, sometimes society sucks. You're like, this is the best I can do for myself. Even though it's a shitty situation, I should get the surgery because this will help me, even though it plays into the bullshit, but I need this for, whatever reason I need it. There's other more important reasons. Okay, most endorsement views of authenticity define authenticity as closely related to autonomy, either as dependent on autonomy or as a precondition for autonomy. Therefore, they tend to understand reason as the superior principle in defining the individual, compared to other characteristics such as our inclinations or emotions. Through reason, we can assess other aspects of the self from a third personal view. This is really worrying me in terms of authenticity. This sort of, again, this view from some abstract position. I feel like the existentialists would hate this sort of idea. Like, the idea is you have to have lived experience and not from this sort of rationalistic reconstruction, but what do I know? Okay, thereby reason and identification reveal who we truly are. Even seemingly self-mutilating decisions which undermine natural inclinations and other features of the self are deemed authentic as long as they are rationally endorsed. Yeah. I mean, I feel like people lean on their notion of rationality a lot. I'm not sure they actually are very rational or have a good idea of what rationality is. So, and I'm with Ivan on that. If Ivan's still here, it's like I agree with you on like people have no fucking clue what rationality is. I may disagree with you on the eventual end of it, like the what it is in the end, but I 100% that like most people have not really thought about this. Rational endorsement accounts of authenticity generally look favorable on enhancement technologies. Enhancement can help people to identify how they look, act, or feel by allowing them to be who they want to be. As a transgender character in the movie All About My Mother by Pedro Almodovar says while showing off her silicone implants, you are more and more authentic the more you look like someone you dreamed of being. As long as the enhancement is rationally endorsed by the individual, it can foster authenticity. To allow for a genuine rational endorsement, it is important that the individual is well informed about the consequences of the enhancement and is, again, not manipulated or otherwise tricked or pressured into using enhancement. Moreover, the enhancement technologies could enhance rational capacities and thereby facilitate and support the process of rational endorsement. The widespread use of enhancement technologies could, however, lead to social pressures for enhancement that could undermine processes of autonomous rational endorsement. Yeah, see, right here at the end, this is a very weird thing for them to end on. The widespread use of enhancement technology could, however, lead to social pressures for the enhancement that could undermine processes of autonomous rational endorsement. It's like, so there's going to be a feedback here, which is going to be very weird. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, if there's only intelligence enhancements, we'd have to know what the intelligence actually was, which we do not. And this is why I was just saying, people do not understand rationality. And so the idea that we're going to have, like, rationality enhancers, we are nowhere yet, like, with that. Oh, God, there's some news regarding implants recently in the footy world. I hope everyone's okay. That's kind of scary. Dojo says everyone identifies as rational, and often they are. That doesn't imply what I think they think it does. Yes. And so this is the problem, is that if you have a concept of rationality that is not like most people's idea, it's like, well, they have some concept, it's okay. But like, if you're starting to change yourself according to some not great idea of rationality, then you are possibly locking yourself into some bad ideas. Everyone's okay? Okay. Yeah. I mean, as long as the people are okay, I mean, you don't want medical problems. Like, that's really, really shitty. Yeah. Okay, relations. But yeah, this is my worry here, is that there's over-reliance on this rationality condition. I don't mind endorsement, like the idea that like it is part of who you are and like you are assenting to it, but I don't like the idea that there's some sort of like background rationality that you have to have, because it's very hard to pin down what rationality is. I mean, you can always go with Ivan Neo and talk about Bayesian rationality, but like that's not going to work for most people. Most people aren't going to be like being able to like, fully think through stuff in like a formal way like that. Okay. Relations. Finally, authenticity is often defined in terms of how you relate to others, notably how others influence you and to what degree hanging and creating the true self is independent. Generally, authentic changes and creations of the self need to originate from the individual, independent of certain pernicious external influences. Thanks for the follow. Latvian says, I guess it's less the implants more so than being penile implants and the recipient being the owner of a mascot eagle of an Italian footy club, a bit of a Nazi, and also posting pics online. What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, what are we talking about? We are talking about authenticity. And if you have some sort of existentialist claim that like there is like an authentic self that you're trying to be, what does that mean if you also like to modify yourself in various ways? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could just be like, like you put on makeup, or you want to get like a breast implant or something like that. Like stuff that isn't permanent. You could change it, but like that's what it is. It's like, what are the conditions where modifying yourself in maybe a significant way is a good thing? But he really did it authentically, get that penis mods to fuck better. Well, there you go. I mean, people want to be able to fuck better. Who are we to deny them they're fucking? But he was also very, very public about it. Yeah, do I give a fuck about his penis mods? I don't think so. But, like, it's interesting. And what's he getting out of the publicity? Like, I don't know. It was also the team's physician that did the operation. Interesting. So, I mean, as long as, yeah, I mean, that brings in other questions. Like, I mean, if, like, it was something done separate from the team, then, like, okay, I suppose it's all right if they do that stuff on their free time. Yeah, strange things all around. It's one of these, you'd have to go look into it. Like, you say, look, maybe if this is he paid the guy separate from his teamwork, all of the stuff is, like, medically pretty safe. Who knows? Could be fine. What do I care if he wants to get dick implants? But, yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, the social aspect of being a Nazi is bad. Get that out of the way, but do I care about his dick implants? No. Anna says, I've recently been going to Jacques Lacan deep dive, especially through the Ljubljana School of Slavoj Žižek and Alenka Zupančić and Mladen Dolar, as well as Jacques-Alain Miller, who is a Lacan son-in-law, and the Lacanian seminars seem to view the subject as not having an authentic being, but caught between existence and lack, which leads to desire. Okay. It's like, cool. I mean, I don't know enough about those authors to comment on this. We're just reading this one here. I mean, like this paper. But, like, sure. It's like, yeah. Latvian says, funny that I stumble into an article about implants when this is buzzing about, yeah, stumble into it. Yeah, I mean, philosophy is quite often in the news. So, like, in one way or another. So, okie dokie. Alright, so, historically the condition of, wait, where was it? Okay. A person who is just following the newest trends or adapting their beliefs to their current social environment is not authentic. Yeah, you can't be just following fads unless that is who you are, is a fad follower, and then in not following the fads would be inauthentic. So of course you just have to be a fad follower if you're following fads. Yeah, like cyberpunk stuff, exactly. Historically, the condition of independence can be found in both the self-discovery and self-creationist traditions of authenticity. Rousseau, one of the first proponents of the idea of authenticity, if not its originator, held a self-discovery view according to which the true self is natural and innate. This is one of these things, this is just an aside. I fucking hate Rousseau, but he is always on the topics that are important. Like, I always disagree with Jean-Jacques. I've always, from the first moment I read him, I was like, this man is insane. I meant that literally. I find his writing to be irregular in ways that I just find to be insane. Like, he's crazy. But he knows the right topics. I just completely disagree with him at all fucking times. It's like the idea that there's a true self that is natural and innate is just fucking insane. No, that's just stupid. It's not insane. I think he's insane for other reasons. But like the idea that there's some true self that's natural and innate, it's just like, what the fuck's up with you, man? Like Jean-Jacques. Iatnis says, Lacan seems to draw on Heidegger's emphasis on the existence of nothingness and shaping subjectivity, but I don't know if you would agree with Heidegger that we have an authentic capital S self which is hidden through being towards death, like Heidegger said. Yeah, I have no idea what Lacan says. Yeah, man, like JJ. Yeah, I mean, you can like it. Like I said, Jean-Jacques is on point. He's on the right topics. I just always disagree with him. I don't, I do not remember his views on education. I have not read Jean-Jacques on education. I've read some of his political stuff when I took political philosophy in college. And then I've read a smattering here and there in the intervening years. And I always disagree with him, but he's always on good topics. Society exerts a corrupting influence on the self from which we should shield ourselves, and particularly our children. In accounts that understand authenticity as a matter of self-creation, the demand for independence in self-creation is also very prominent. Rousseau is one of the fathers of the nonsense of the modern left, along with Marx. Better than Marx, but still pretty bad. I mean, okay. It's like, that's your opinion on the modern left nonsense. It's like, sure. Like, yeah, everyone has nonsense. Like, you just get to pick and choose which one you like better. He is good on his philosophy of education. Good to know. Heidegger warns against following the anonymous Das Man, the they, and against doing what one does. Just like, yeah, the impersonal one. Eigenlichkeit. A term usually translated as authenticity requires independent self-creation while embedded with others in a social world. Similarly, Sartre argues that it is an instance of bad faith if we just follow or play social scripts. Being authentic, according to this conception of independence, means listening to one's own voice and shaping one's individual identity in an original manner to find one's very own path through life. What's up, Cow Deer? How you doing? In my own account of authenticity, I argue that to be true to oneself, the self needs to be well-defined. A well-defined self requires that one actively takes charge of one's life and actualizes characteristics or traits one claims to have. If you just do what your parents expect you to do, it remains unclear what you yourself would have done given the chance. Beyond the fact that you are pleasing your parents, it is unclear what kind of person you are. To be authentic, you need to make independent choices and enact them to constitute a well-defined self. Fine Meg is waiting for PO2 patch notes. Yeah, and me, I'm okay. I'm working on something and I'm just touching on existentialism and something I'm working on. So I got into discussions of authenticity. So now we're reading something on authenticity and the ethics of human enhancement. So this is fun, This is not something I usually think about. And so it's nice to see, I've been, the little bit I've read of existentialism, they've got some decent arguments. I think they have some good points in, just general philosophy. So it's nice to just see another area of philosophy that's may not be doing well right now, or there might be a ton of stupid shit out there, but yeah, that's all. It's kind of cool. No, I was streaming, Caudio. I did not hear the Biden farewell address. Okay, Sock now's Plankdiatonist. Beyond Heidegger, did you read Nietzsche, Arendt, and Kierkegaard? I have not read Arendt or Kierkegaard. I've read a little bit of Nietzsche and some Heidegger. Yeah. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So the author here says you have to do stuff to define your life, which is in line with a lot of other existentialist philosophers. They're just saying you have to do it to do it in a way that gives a well-defined, for some definition of well-defined. Strong external influences undermine authenticity, but of course we cannot and need not try to avoid being influenced by others and our broader social context. Therefore, there has been a lively debate on the role of others and the social context for authenticity, which has pushed back against the idea that authenticity is best pursued in total independence. Yeah, and this we were discussing a little bit earlier, that you can't actually do this alone. Authenticity is independence is, freedom for everybody in some sense. Because if you're the only one that's free, then you're in a weird world. Okay. Those arguments for a relational dimension of authenticity include that we can only define ourselves against the backdrop of shared horizons of meaning. He said there's an oligarchy forming and we all got to watch out. Well, he's not wrong. Marx is terrible and so is the new left. Well, why do you say Marx is terrible, Atonist? If you just state things are bad, please give a reason for why you say they're bad. It's just otherwise it's just name calling. Try not to just be name calling. It's that's bad. I don't like that. You know what? That's just your opinion, man. If you want to actually discuss stuff, you have to say so. Well, and even Zizek thinks Marx isn't great. Well, that's just an appeal to authority. So it's well, maybe I think Zizek is shitty, and Marx is great. It's it doesn't help anything appealing to authority. If you have a reason why Marx is shitty, say so. Otherwise, have a discussion. Just don't be making fun of just a name calling. Those arguments for a relational dimension of authenticity include that we can only define ourselves against the backdrop of shared horizons of meaning, that we define ourselves in dialogue with others, that adopting an identity depends on the recognition of others, and that authenticity is a social virtue and social expectation. Argument ad verecundium. Yeah. Zizek also has this description of authentic religious experience where he argues that the Zen Buddhism of D. Suzuki, which was popular during the Imperial period and World War II, wasn't a perversion of authenticity. They really detached from suffering of the world to do atrocities. It was a real thing. Entirely possible. Maybe they can get themselves in a mental state where it doesn't matter. But you see name callers right up Marx's alley. Just ask LaSalle. Yeah, sure. Iona says, it's deterministic. Okay, lots of things are deterministic. B, it divides people into simplistic oppressor-oppressed lines. That's fair. You're saying it's overly simplistic, but the gloss of Marx being simplistic, you're going to have to be more specific of that. But like, that's actually a fair argument. Deterministic is, a lot of things are deterministic. And see, practices determinist politics leads to totalitarianism of like USSR and Mao's China. Now that's a much harder argument. You're saying that it's all Marx's fault, some of the bad stuff that happened in the 20th century. I'm not going to buy that. You're considering doing a magic trick? Oh, let's see, Vipers. We'll find out. K-Par says, it's true that there's a chapter in Capital talking about the evilness of the bourgeoisie and why they're just evil. Yeah. Do you know it's not deterministic? It's not... Oh, they... Really? It's not deterministic in POD2? Wow, okay. Wow, look at that magic trick. Something disappeared. Latvian says, 3 volumes of math lane text has something to say about its simplicity. Yeah. Like, and poof, like that, he's gone. Yeah. Brother, you've been trying to tell me? Interesting. Yeah. Also, cardio, interesting too. Okay. In the words of Neil Levy, human beings frequently answer identity questions by citing irreducibly social features. Their group membership or identification, for instance. Authenticity is not something we achieve from the inside out, but also from the outside in. Yeah, so the idea of what's going on, you still need outside ideas to help you understand your world. Yeah. Okay. Thus, even if social influences are shaping people's desire... Oh yeah, I should say this to Caudio. One of my resolutions for this year is to be a bit more practical, a little bit more pragmatic, get more stuff done that maybe a little less theoretical. So, you know, maybe I should be playing more video games just as a relaxing thing. So like, even though I didn't do any of that last year, really, I just did a lot of work. Maybe I should be thinking about, you know, playing Path of Exile. Yeah. Okay. Thus, even if social influences are shaping people's desire to use enhancement technologies, they are not necessarily inauthentic. As discussed in the section on endorsement, enhancement technologies can be used to express the individual's original independent voice. Nonetheless, enhancement is sometimes pursued due to social pressure, stigma, and oppressive cultural norms, for in some cases, cosmetic surgery. Hit me up. We can play whenever I need to level another character. Yeah, I mean, I'm still incredibly busy at the moment. But, like, that's the goal for the year. So I've got a little bit of time to, you know, chill out. By increasing our power to define who we are, some people do and will use enhancement technologies to conform to social expectations to a problematic degree, which would contradict the demands of authenticity for independence and originality. Once enhancement technologies are widely used, the pressure to use them increases further. Yeah, so we've got an escalation problem here, which is, I think, an interesting question. Like, once you start doing it, like, will everyone do it, and what will be the brakes on this system? The longer I wait, the better the game will be. Oh, well, see, in that case, wait forever. It'll be the greatest game I never play. Okay. Yeah. The authentic characteristics of some people may not be favored in the professional and social life of their society, but making them easier to change, enhancement technologies may allow those individuals to lead an easier and potentially happier life because they might reach their professional and social goals more easily while remaining genuine. However, this can shift the burden of change to the individual, even if it would be better to change society to be more accommodating to a variety of characteristics. That's fair too. It's like, what are we changing? Well, if a person is authentic and needs help getting to be their authentic self, sure. But if then that is the primary mode of development of the society, then maybe that's not great either. We don't want to only be modifying the people. We need social change as well. Yeah. This reminds me of a short essay, Dojo says, where body modification gets more and more extreme until people are removing limbs and the next generation rebels by keeping all their limbs. Kids these days, exactly. Well, there is something to living the human experience, whatever that is, but like that's not going to work for everybody. Not everyone has, you know, like the full range of like the human, like, you know, just say someone who doesn't have a leg and they want to be able to run. Well, if you don't have a leg, you need something to help you run. It's like, well, we should be able to help that person nowadays. We can help that person nowadays so that they can run. But like, say you want to run really fast. Well, okay, we can also change a person without any modifications to help them run faster. Like, you can just give them bouncier shoes for that matter. But like, again, what is it to be human? Like, is it to live in the body we have, or is it to change into something you want to be? This is the question of, like, what is it to actually have a narrative and understand what it is to be a human? So you got to decide about that. The authenticity of Theseus, yeah. Do you New Yorker guys are always busy? Do you ever take it easy? We take it easy a lot. But, like, I happen to be very busy at the moment. Yeah. Exchange oxygenated blood during the Tour de France. Exactly. So you're getting, like, yeah, you're getting enhancements that you should not be when you are in a social situation where you agree to play by the same rules. That's not fair. But, like, if you were getting, drinking, like, you're like a vampire and you have to drink blood to live forever, it's like, well, okay. But, like, then that's a sort of thing that you are. You need regular maintenance. And, yeah, it's like you're in Ghost in the Shell. You need regular maintenance to keep your body running. And so there needs to be a city, a technology and civilization supporting you at that point, and you are a drain on that civilization, but like you will have to, give back in some sense. One of my clients are in New York City. They're so annoying, always in such a time crunch. Yeah, shit's expensive here. Thanks for the lurk, Latvian Jesus. Yeah, things are different here. Not always bad, not always good, but like, things are different. It's just, things are a pain in the ass. I think that's how it is everywhere. Sockno says, like, Marx was looking at economic factors of how poverty arose in 1800s Germany, like the saying that class is somehow oversimplified is kind of a not real, like the governments in modern times break up financial classes into tables, for example, tax tables and welfare approval tables, and Marx was coming from noting that overconsumption of cash leads to inefficiencies in the economy, which pushes people into impoverished conditions. Yes, and just so you know, Sockno, I don't know if you noticed, but that dude got banned. That dude also, it said, was banned in all of our friends' chats too. They had a history of going in and just spouting their opinion. And that's all they do. It's like, if you want to actually, like, have an opinion, that's fine, but, like, you have to give an argument here, and if they're not going to do that, we don't have time for this shit. So, Kadu says, my philosophy is on, like, 90% take it easy. I think, yeah. So, like, you ban, like, there's part of streaming is dealing with trolls. We got as much value out of that person as we could, and then we move on, and like that's good. It's like we play with our food a little bit and then we toss it away. That's it. The right are poopy heads because I said so. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Dojo. That's the problem with that person, is they want to talk about what they want to talk about, and they're not engaging either with chat or with, like, my content. Like, if you want to talk to chat, that's fine. Like, that happens sometimes where chat is talking about something that I'm not talking about. That's cool. Or you want to engage with the stuff I'm talking about, that's great. If you're doing neither and you're just spouting your opinion on shit, well, go start your own stream. Okay, expressing the self, the true self. Besides conditions for authentic creation and changes of the true self, authenticity can be further defined with respect to how this true self should be expressed. To authentically express the true self, there should be a consistency relation between the true self and other dimensions of the self. In the following, I discuss the idea that the true self should be adequately represented in one's self-conception, self-presentation, or one's body, actions, and emotions. Of course, both branches, the creation and change of the true self and its expression, are connected. In expressing the true self, we also create and change it. Many accounts of authenticity address both aspects, but some define authenticity almost exclusively on one side. For instance, views that understand the true self as one's innate and unchanging nature do, of course, not define any conditions for its creation or change, but define authenticity in terms of how it should be expressed. Yeah, a lot of unknowns. Yeah. The consistency relation between the true self and one's self-conception translates into a demand for self-knowledge. Who you take yourself to be should correspond to the true self. Yeah, I'm sorry. The language is just a little bit difficult in this essay for some reason. It's hard to read. An authentic person should not be self-deluded and know who they are. See, like this sentence right here. They should not be self-deluded, and they should know who they are. But like they should not be self-deluded and know who they are. See, if you like just put the parentheses in different areas, if all you philosophy of language people know, you can read this and mean the wrong thing in a sense. It's just a little bit I know what they, after reading it, I know what they mean, but it's hard in real time. Self-knowledge is furthermore a precondition for other dimensions of authenticity, notably for authenticity as endorsement. In my account of authenticity, I argue that to be authentic, one's narrative identity should be sustainable, meaning that there should be little tension between your lived experience and who you take yourself to be. Even though many characteristics of the self are to some degree a question of interpretation, the self-narrative is constrained by subjective and objective facts about oneself. For example, one's emotions, thoughts, intentions, body features, or facts about actions and live events. Authenticity requires acknowledging those facts and therefore extended self-knowledge. Yeah, so this is the clear-eyed. You have to be like clear-eyed about who you are in your world thing we talked about earlier. Some enhancement technologies can contribute to increased self-knowledge, notably the enhancement of memory or intelligence. They may help us to achieve a greater self-understanding and reduce self-delusion. Other enhancement technologies could, however, be used to avoid facing uncomfortable truth about oneself. Mood enhancers could make it easier to not acknowledge that you no longer love your spouse or enjoy your job. Wow, you are sad. I hope this is not you, author. But yeah, so if you are using drugs to avoid your life, that could be bad, but you feel okay, but you're not thinking about the way you're living your life. Like, yeah, that does happen. Rousseau's account of authenticity also requires self-knowledge, but in addition, he demands that the individual's self-presentation is consistent with this true self-conception. You should know who you are, and you should present yourself to others truthfully. Dude, Rousseau, sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. Like, I got you. Like, if you were all, like, maximally who you're supposed to be, then it should all be consistent. But, like, fake it till you make it, Rousseau, sometimes. Viper says, I use drugs to avoid not having drugs. Exactly. I just got here. What is this about? Yeah, this is about being authentic to yourself in the light of change. Could you do something to make yourself better? And why would you do that? And are you true to yourself? So all we're doing here is... yeah, who knows? We're trying to see what Rousseau says. Like, you should present yourself to others truthfully. I don't know, Rousseau. Thus, according to Rousseau, an authentic person cannot lie about themselves, where in my account, if a person is aware of why they're lying, they can still be authentic. Yeah, so the author is down with fake it till you make it. Within the enhancement literature, Erler argues that authenticity entails an accurate presentation of key features of one's narrative identity to others. The idea of authenticity as accurate self-presentation can also be understood as a consistency relation between the true self and one's self-presentation without demanding self-knowledge. Dojo says I can be authentic and also be very good at poker. Yeah, and the problem is there's going to be parts of yourself that you do not like that you are working on. We all have things that we are working on that we wish to be better about. You don't have to put that shit out there for everyone to see. Like, you can be like, look, if it comes up, you apologize, be like, I'm working on this. Like, we all start somewhere, and like sometimes that's not the best place. I understand. We all got like issues we got to work through. And so the idea that we have to like be authentic all the time, like in our presentation, it's like, well, maybe we should like tamp down on the things we need to work on if we know we need to work on them. We might not have everything worked out, but like I find this very idealistic. That's all. It's just a little too idealistic that we're going to be able to fully present ourselves at all times. Dogen says, I'm always aware of how other people at the table are perceiving me, and it's important to play with that knowledge. Much of life is that game. Yeah. Now, of course, you don't want to be manipulative because that's like a bad thing to be doing, except in poker. Like, you do it in poker because that is the game, and everyone at the table should understand that. But if you're being manipulative in life in the way you present yourself, that's shitty. But again, you want to put your best foot forward because like you're trying to be your best self. So it's like you don't always have to present the bad things and be like, like just spilling your guts all the time. Sockdown says, present oneself truly is also dangerous. Like, I wish I could live in a world that was acceptable, but it can lead to being taken advantage. Absolutely. And, there's a lot of hateful people out there that may not like you for really terrible reasons. Like say they're just racists, and it's like, and you call them on the phone, and you know that if you were to tell them you were XYZ minority, they would hate you, but they can't tell because of your accent on the phone. It's like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to be like, and by the way, I'm this minority and you should hate me. It's like, no, just get through the experience. We have to get through life. Like, there are details to life that are more important than, you know, you need to like get shit done sometimes. Exactly. So it's like, you need to be shitty to all the people you hate all the time. Okay. So within the enhancement literature, Erler argues that authenticity entails an accurate presentation of key features of one's narrative identity to others. So you're only representing key features. I guess that would be the content of your character here. The idea of authenticity as accurate self-presentation can also be understood as a consistency relation between the true self and one's self-presentation without demanding self-knowledge. Oh, I read this already. I mean, you don't want to be too inconsistent with yourself. That just gets hard to deal with, but also presentation, like, can help you. You do not have to always be what, like, you feel like inside. It's not always going to work for everybody. Okay. According to this view, to be authentic, you should not be a phony. In contrast to Erler's Rousseau's in my account, you may be authentic by accident in the case that you are a self-deluded liar who just happens to tell the truth about yourself. Enhancement technologies can undermine authenticity as truthful self-presentation if they are not sufficiently disclosed. Using enhancement to gain an advantage in sports or professional life without being open about it would be phony and inauthentic. Yeah. If you are in a spot where you are agreeing to be authentic in a certain way, then you should not be lying about that. Like professional sports. Of course, this would be dependent on current common expectations. If enhancement became the norm in a certain setting, an explicit disclosure of one's use of enhancement would not be required for truth self-presentation. Rousseau and now the jerk J.D. Salinger. Okay. Yeah, what's J.D. have to do with this? My recall gets bad after reading for a while. Yeah, exactly. There's like, if you're being honest about things, then people can take advantage of, say, issues you've got. You don't have to reveal all your problems all the time because it's unsafe, frankly. The true self can furthermore find expression in one's actions. But again, I don't want to be endorsing repressing your life. I'm just saying not everything has to be revealed at all times. Yeah. Oh, Action and Rye was all about the phonies in society? Yeah. Sure. But I find this very idealistic, so yes. So that's a fair criticism. The true self can furthermore find expression in one's actions, emotions, and body beyond settings of other directed self-presentation. In this sense, to be authentic can mean to express who you are in a completely private circumstances by enacting, feeling, and embodying the true self. What this kind of self-expression entails depends on the conception of the true self. It could mean to act, feel, and look in accordance with wholehearted, rationally endorsed, or independently formed decisions, or it could mean to freely express one's natural inclinations. Yeah. Myers offers an account of focusing on enactment for authenticity that links authenticity to autonomous competency. Oh, that's interesting. A competency. I like that idea. The authentic self arises from a set of autonomous skills including introspection, imagination, memory, communication, reasoning, interpretation, and volition that enable self-discovery and self-creation. Insofar as enhancement technologies may foster those skills, they can contribute to enacting and constituting an authentic self. See, I like this because this gets away from the rationality line they had earlier, that like you have to like have a rational narrative. I like the idea of being able to accomplish things, and that's what the autonomous competency I'm keying in on. So it's like, I don't like the rationality, I like being competent. It's like, I don't have to explain myself, I have to get the job done, as it were, sometimes. The President's Council on Bioethics has raised concerns about the authenticity of enhanced emotions. They argue that enhancement technologies could detach our emotions from reality. Enhancement technologies could make us happier, confident, even if we have no reason to be either. However, in most situations, more than one emotion emotional reaction would be appropriate. Thus, simply changing an emotional reaction through enhancement would not necessarily mean it is inappropriate. This is the old, drugs are bad, you should feel all the pain in the world. It's like, well, maybe not. Are you going to ban alcohol? Like, really? Because that's an emotional enhancer at different times. And it's like, well, then you're talking about banning alcohol, which is not happening in the United States. So it's like, I find this very hypocritical. Sockno says, yeah, there is necessary relevance, like you need to reveal yourself to do business, like consumption, like human enhancement is part of this consumption. Like you have to reveal it to a doctor, but just like Botox treatment, you don't have to reveal to the world. Yeah, exactly. It's like certain things need to be revealed at certain times, not all the times, and you have to keep yourself safe. Like that's usually the baseline here. Like, are you safe first, and then what else can you do? What's up, Retheus? I think Catcher was a revolutionary novel for the time it was written, but falls apart by modern literary standards in most regards. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing all right. We're getting towards the end of this paper. I am touching on existentialism and something I'm working on. So we've been talking existentialism today. And so we're talking about authenticity at the moment and what changes you might make to yourself and still maintain an authentic life, whatever that it means to you. To anyone who says it, try bullshitting yourself on acid and see how well that goes. Yeah, has no one ever lied when drunk? K-Pars? It's like, yeah, maybe the acid will help you make it hard to lie. But what about like lying when drunk? Yeah. Existentialism is your favorite? Cool. Yeah, being the person I am, I have the things I'm concerned with, and then I just don't deal with existentialism usually, and so I don't have any reason to look into it, and it's been a long time. So it's been fun because I found the arguments to be good. Like I find what they're saying interesting by like my current standards. It's like that's very nice to find. Did I ever send you the Dan Harmon quote on this? I do not. If you did, I don't remember, so send it to me. So yeah, I don't know. Okay. Cool. Put it in chat. Yeah. Thus, simply, yeah. So just changing an emotion doesn't make it inappropriate. Enhanced emotions could still be responsive to reality. Moreover, when we look at which emotions people describe as feeling authentic, there seems to be no link between an artificially induced emotion and a feeling of authenticity. Dojo loves Dan Harmon. His comments on apology are really important. Cool. Yeah, I do not know these things. Okay. The increased control over your emotions through enhancement can, however, allow you to ignore emotions that might be considered authentic. Particularly in the philosophy of Rousseau and the Romantics, deep emotions are considered as revealing the true self and should be followed, not suppressed or changed. Yeah, so this is very scary because maybe you have some really shitty deep emotions that need to be corrected. Like, that's scary. But like also there might be some good ones there too. But I wouldn't automatically assume just because the emotion is deep that it becomes good or correct. Interesting that authenticity is control, mastery, discipline. Yeah, this is why that is very interesting, K-Pars. And I find this very this is why I don't quite like I always say, Rousseau is keyed on the right sort of stuff. I hate Rousseau's take on it, though. Retheus says, quote, "The knowledge that nothing matters, while accurate, gets you nowhere. The planet is dying, the sun is exploding, the universe is cooling, nothing's going to matter. The further back you pull, the more that truth will endure. But when you zoom in on Earth, when you zoom in into a family, when you zoom into a human brain and childhood experience, you see that all these things that matter. We have this fleeting chance to participate in an illusion called, I love my girlfriend, I love my dog. How is that not better? Knowing the truth that nothing matters can actually save you in those moments. Once you get through that terrifying threshold of accepting that, then every place is the center of the universe, and every moment is the most important moment, and everything is the meaning of life." Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's one of the great points of the existentialist philosophy is that in the absurdity of the world, you can live in the moment and like feel the authenticity of the life that you are living now. So, yeah, that's a well said statement. Okay. The true self can also be embodied insofar as it can be expressed through bodily appearance. An involuntary mismatch between one's body and one's self-conception can cause great distress, and a feeling of alienation in the case of transgender people. Cosmetic surgery, sex reassignment surgery, and even healthy limb amputations have been described as a way of getting in touch with the true self. Enhancement technologies can help people to express who they take themselves to be through their bodies. In turn, if someone is mistaken about who they are, enhancement equally facilitates the expression of an inauthentic self. What is the core of that in philosophy? Humanism? This is existentialism. This is existential philosophy. The idea that the situation we find ourselves in is absurd. It's like a Sisyphean sort of like you're always rolling a ball up a hill. It's just like ridiculous what we're doing most of the times. There's no sense in it, but that doesn't mean you can't find the sense in your actual life by deciding what to do with your time that you have. So you decide in the moment in your life what is the authentic thing for you, and in deciding that to give those things meaning and doing certain stuff, then you define who you are, what is your life. And so that's kind of where we're going. That's existential idea. Doger says, how can you be mistaken about who you are? Is this in the moment, in the narrative question? Well, of course you can be mistaken about who you are. Like, people get ideas about themselves and what they should do, and then they realize that was dumb as fuck later all the time. What was it Ivan was talking about? He wanted to build a starship, and then he realized that was a bad idea when he got into his 20s, or it just not work. It would still be cool. I think he even admitted that it would still be cool to build a starship, but like, he is not the person to go out and just do it right now. And so the idea that like, I'm going to build a starship, even though that sounds like a fucking awesome thing, I am not the person to do that, and it would be very dumb for me to do it. But like, it's because it sounds cool, I could definitely get fooled into the idea of doing it. Yeah, of course you could be psychotic, K-Par, as K-Par says. Rethos, I got real into Warhammer at 40k, bad idea. Exactly. So like, certain things may look better at the outset, and you'd be like, this is what I'm going to do now. And when you get into it, you realize things aren't what you thought they were. And then like, that's bad. And then you have to get yourself out, and that can be hard. So you're naive about who you are. Is that inauthentic? Being naive is just sometimes the state of the world. You may not really understand what you like. Like, there's lots of things you find out when you're an adult that you thought you'd like as a kid, and you realize you don't, or vice versa, like lots of things like that. Like, I didn't like olives when I was younger. Now I like olives. It's like, there are way more important, different things. But I was naive about olives when I was younger. I just didn't like them. I think maybe I had a bad one, or they were too salty. But now I like olives. So it's like, that's all the things. It's like, is it inauthentic? It's going to take a little bit of experimentation to find out stuff. Your kid self was right. See, exactly. See, I'm just naive now, Dojo. Viper says, do we need a starship? Do I need to build a starship? Does the starship need to be made by me right now? That's exactly right. I heard Craig Ferguson drop that line, and I've remembered ever since. Question is, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said by me right now? If you can't answer yes to all three of those things, you should not be talking. So that's exactly right, Vipers. Socknow says, the thing that makes me think when reading along is the idea of persona and personality. Like, this comes to the idea of persona, and personality is authentic and the such. Yeah, so this is like the concept of self. A lot is going into this. Yeah. Anyway, we're all being very authentic right now at the moment. Yeah. K-Par says, a lot of people complain that electronic music is inauthentic because there's no instruments. It's just a drum machine, but you could use a drum machine authentically to make music. No human ever could. Yeah, again, it's not the musical instrument that's making the music. It's the people making it. So you could always have different instruments. We had different instruments in the past. We're going to have new instruments in the future. It's going to be different. And the question is the quality of the music. There's a nice quote that's like, look, you might have a hit record because you come up with a new sound, but as soon as you do that, then it becomes a gimmick every other time someone else does that. So you might like have a hit record once with some new technology or a new sound, but after that, you're going to have to, make good music again. And so after that, it's just a fad. So it's like, yeah. So it's always the person behind the music, and the tools will change over time, but it's not going to change in terms of what good music is. What's an authentic pizza anyways? Tomatoes are from the New World. Yes, you come to New York, we have authentic pizza. Exactly, we're in the New World. Like, what's the question there? You like T-Pain. T-Pain is a streamer, by the way. He's a good guy. He is associated with some of the streams I watch. He's a good guy, and T-Pain got so annoyed with his getting criticized about using auto-tune that he learned how to sing, and he's a pretty good singer at the moment. And so when he makes music, he just sings. He can also auto-tune it, but like that was the thing. He was a good musician who used auto-tune, and then when he got criticized, he's continued to be a good musician. And he said that basically he's on a lot of records that you don't know he's on. He got paid to ghostwrite the music. And so a lot of he's like, you don't realize T-Pain's getting paid. Like, he may not be the person you're listening to, but T-Pain's still getting paid for that music you're listening to right now. Any pizza based in tomato sauce is authentic. Socrates, Diogenes, Mark Twain. Exactly. But because, but it became a whole aesthetic now with hyperpop. Yeah. I mean, you can blame him for starting the, that trend in music, but you can't blame him for where it went. Like, that's not all T-Pain's fault. But like, yeah, he's a good musician. I saw he had a small concert where he was doing War Pigs and oh god, this is what happens. I lose words and names, but like he had a mini concert that he was singing some songs, and it was like sold out immediately, and you can go watch it. And Ozzy Osbourne was like, this is the best version of the song I've heard in like 30 years or something. So it's like, it's on YouTube, you can go watch it, and it's good. So it's like, T-Pain is good at his music. So yeah, shout out T-Pain. You don't have to shout out T-Pain, but like, he is a streamer, and like it's funny. You can go hang out with T-Pain on Twitch. Okay. The value of authenticity. Actually, that checks out. You know what? Fuck it. We're shouting out T-Pain. See? There he is. More so, the argument that was once seen as artificial excess became a sought-after aesthetic. Yeah. Busta Rhymes' cover was released around 30 years ago. Wow. Yeah. Hip-hop is growing up. Like, it was started off a long time ago now, and now it's just like the people who were... You know, there's people like, you know, there's going to be old men of hip-hop. Like, it's going to be a thing. Old women, too. Yeah, I mean, Missy Elliott's still around. Queen Latifah's making TV or whatever. Okay. The dude says, have you ever heard that T-Pain song, How to Hate a Bitch, with a Lil Wayne, that shit fire? I may have heard it. I do not know like the names of songs off the top of my head. And like the longer I stream, I'm getting towards 3 hours. My connecting names and words with objects in my head, like it's all disconnected at this point. Yeah. Like, if human enhancement envelops itself with weapons, would it be incredibly valuable to like police? Well, keep in mind, like, we already have cell phones. Like, these things are great, and they're not, like, connected to us. Now, of course, the next step is just to have it just, like, connected to our head. So, like, it'll be, like, attached to us. But we don't need to put it under the skin. Like, what's the point? You could just have, like, a headset that's always working. So, it's like, yeah, we could attach, like, guns to police. But, like, what's the difference between it being in a holster and being, like, part of your hand? Like, maybe it would be a little safer that it couldn't get lost. But like, again, there'd be a lot of trade-offs there. So like, yes, it's coming, but like, it's not so obvious what the benefits are. Like, I have zero interest in getting like technology implants because the access I have to all this stuff through a phone is tremendous already. And so the idea that like I'm getting some benefit from some bioenhancement, you'd have to make a really strong case to me. And I mean ridiculously strong to say you need this because you can't get it from the other technology that I can access through the phone, which I don't know. Yeah, it just looks as beneficial for corporation biometric data. Yeah. So again, maybe if you are part of, like you are doing it as part of your work, which there's plenty of sci-fi where people are forced into getting enhancements for their jobs and other stuff, or like corporate tracking. That's all bad shit. Usually, like, these are not happy. These are dystopian sort of things. But like, yeah, it's like, sure. You would not be able to convince me with anything to put some shit like that in my head. Yeah. It would have to be something so unbelievable that I've not considered it yet. That could happen. Like there could be some really radical jump in technology. Say the AI, just takes off and we get some like really crazy shit and it's just like really good. But like at the current level of tech, there is nothing that you could do to get me to like get like the Neuralink or whatever implants. Like the chance of something going wrong at this generation of the technology is way too high. Okay, the value of authenticity. The discussion so far has revealed highly multi-dimensional concept of authenticity, entailing conditions of coherence, endorsement, and independence that guide the creation and change of the true self, as well as norms about how the true self should correspond and be expressed in other dimensions of the self: self-conception, self-presentation, and one's actions, body, and emotions. Enhancement technologies can influence those dimensions individually, sometimes increasing authenticity with respect to one aspect while threatening another. This leads to the question as to which dimensions of authenticity we should pursue and try to protect from threats through enhancement technologies, as well as what the value of authenticity is. Authenticity is typically considered an instrumentally rather than intrinsically valuable. As an instrumentally rather than intrinsically valuable thing. Several candidates have been suggested for the instrumental value of authenticity, such as increasing well-being, autonomy, and the moral good. Authenticity can contribute to well-being in many cases because feeling authentic is generally considered a positive mental state in comparison to inauthenticity or alienation. However, being authentic can entail giving up comfort, pleasure, or easy routes to happiness. Dojo says, very good stream. Have to go hang with my beautiful family and watch Arcane. Have one for evil. Thank you for being here, Dojo. Have a great night. Unless we assume the true self is fundamentally good, being authentic would not necessarily entail being morally good. Yeah, this is a problem. We were discussing this before. Saying whatever it is you are, be a good one. Well, what if you're not morally good? You're morally evil. And then you're like a really highly skilled evil person. So it's like you can't just assume that. A paradigmatic example would be Gauguin, who abandoned his family to become an artist in pursuit of authenticity. Yeah, if anyone doesn't know Paul Gauguin, one of the great expressionist painters, basically abandoned his wife and kid to go to Polynesia to be a painter. Very famous paintings. He was probably just, being colonialist and like sleeping with, the Polynesians and just ignoring his wife and kid, and famous painter though. An authentic life is furthermore claimed to be fulfilled and meaningful, but how authenticity contributes to a fulfilled and meaningful life often remains vague. For accounts that define authenticity as instrumental for one's constitutive or constitutive of autonomy, its value is linked to the value of autonomy. Sockness says, in a philosophical sense, I can't prevent someone to take Botox, so I can't prevent this. What do you mean? Like, do you want to know what they look like at that exact age? Like, with their exact experience? Or are they allowed to live the life that they see fit? Like, you can't... Like, are you assuming Botox is just an evil there, is the question, Sock now? Because, you can't prevent people from doing shitty stuff. Not saying Botox is evil, it isn't. It's how you use these things. Although botulism is a pretty nasty disease. But yeah, whatever. Let me know what you mean. I mean, you can't prevent people from being shitty, but you can't also claim that you know all the things that, don't be the judge and executioner of all the things other people are doing, even if you disagree with some of them. Arguments for the value of authenticity in the ethics of human enhancement regularly rely upon 1. The common appeal of authenticity as an ideal. 2. Empirical studies investigating how people understand and value authenticity. 3. Showing how authenticity contributes to well-being, autonomy, or other pragmatic advantages. Or 4. Linking the specific account of authenticity to broader philosophical arguments for the value of authenticity, such as Taylor's work on authenticity as an ethical ideal, John Stuart Mill's defense of individuality, or Sartre's notion of bad faith. You don't see the point of this paper? Okay, so we were discussing this earlier, because this is in a chapter in a textbook. Not a textbook, a chapter in a compilation. What they look like they're doing is they're trying to lay out like they had three different things. There was like coherence, endorsement, and relations. The way, and what they're doing there is they're trying to put together a way to talk about authenticity in terms of enhancement. In like they're trying to just like lay the groundwork for different avenues of discussion, and so they have like this tripartite thing, like I just said, the coherence, the endorsement, and relations version of this to give general shape to the discussion. That's kind of what they're doing here. They're trying to lay groundwork in a sort of heuristic way, give you ways of discussing stuff. They're not going into they're not taking a strong stand otherwise. You're cooking, but you're thinking of a response. Okay. All right. These approaches commonly lead to one of two problems. The first problem occurs when data or arguments that are grounded on one account of authenticity are used to argue for the value of a different account. For instance, a psychological study showing that people think in terms of a true self and attribute it with meaning only speak to the view on authenticity investigated in that study. The second problem arises from applying arguments for the value of authenticity grounded on a broad understanding of authenticity to more specific accounts. The issue does not arise from the validity of the argument but from the aims of the debate on enhancement and authenticity. Mill's view on the value of individuality, for instance, can be applied to accounts that understand authenticity as a matter of endorsement or of independence, as well as to different ways to express the true self. This kind of value argument tends not to distinguish between the different accounts and could be applied to different ones equally. Similarly, arguments in favor of the value of authenticity by virtue of its contribution to well-being or autonomy often apply to multiple dimensions of authenticity equally well. Because individual accounts of authenticity can give different recommendations for or against the use of enhancement technologies, it is relevant to be able to decide between them. To show whether we should use enhancement technologies based on authenticity claims requires an argument for why we should value one dimension of authenticity over another, for instance, why we should value experimental self-creation over coherent self. Yeah, so this is exactly the problem with these sorts of accounts. The different ways of viewing it will be in conflict. So, you go back to Asimov's 3 laws, all of a sudden they don't work. Like you need things, like you can interpret one law to be more important than the others, and then everything breaks. So this is a way of showing the different ideas about how these things work together, but you can't always just treat them simplistically. And this is one of the issues with these strategies. It can outline it can show you what the problems are, but it's not always going to be a solution. Like I say, like you say, like computers can do no harm. They have to do stuff. But then if you start understanding harm in a different way, or you start understanding one of the rules as more important than the others, then all of a sudden, well, you're following one rule, but to the expense of another. So it's hard. And this is why there are purposes for doing things this way, but you also have to know the downsides. Okay, the debate on authenticity and the ethics of human enhancement would profit from a more extended discussion on which accounts of authenticity are morally valuable and why. And so this is the hand waving, like, yes, I know I didn't do everything people want, but like I did what I could. Okay, as well as in which circumstances they have prudential value and contribute to well-being. A comparative analysis which would contrast and weigh the value of different accounts of authenticity and discuss their appeal to people in different circumstances and with different conceptions of good life would be beneficial. Once we understand the different accounts of authenticity and why or in which cases they are valuable, we are in a better position to weigh the multifaceted impact of human enhancement on authenticity and thereby assess the desirability and the ethics of human enhancement in a broader sense. Yeah, and see, this is the duck out here. This is like, okay, let's go find the context, and then we have to figure out what to do in context. So, this happens a lot in philosophy. Someone says a whole lot of nice, fancy arguments, and then they say, well, but you have to do the right thing in context. And that's what happened right here. A reason why this has proven difficult so far is that bioethicists generally try not to make specific claims about what counts as a good, flourishing life. Yeah, and our buddy Aris talks about this. Like this, you have to go back to some stronger theories. We don't really have the definition of a flourishing life. You have to go look at it. Instead, they want to rely on broad claims to leave room for diverse views, but the impact of enhancement technologies on authenticity is so multifaceted and dependent on the specific interpretation of the concepts of authenticity and the good life that is hard to tackle through broad, non-committal claims. This does not mean that we should stop discussing authenticity in the context of human enhancement. People still care about authenticity and worry whether they should use or avoid enhancement technologies to achieve it. If we consider authenticity as a multidimensional concept, an argument that enhancement technologies are threatening or supporting authenticity across the board is almost impossible. Bioethics can, however, clarify how enhancement technologies impact specific dimensions of authenticity, uncover which concepts of the self and the good life are at the heart of the individual dimensions of authenticity, and give reasons why we should pursue them. Okay. Get in under the 3-hour mark. But as always, what we do here is we now rate the paper. We have an emote review here. Please use the emotes if you see them in chat below. There are better TTV emotes, so everyone has access to them if you have the extension installed. If this paper made your brain dance, you thought it was fun, give it a brain dance. Spelling and capitalization do count. If you thought it talked about existential or artistic drama, Nog Scream. Ouroboros for deep ancient ideas. Nog Knife for slicing and dicing arguments. Nog Navel gazing only for academics. Nog Turd, all style no substance, still poop underneath. Nog Grapes for big claims that shrivel up. You can also use the global vote yay and vote nay from Twitch, and also my vote map. All the stuff in the green at the top will make this, like I do calculate a score. It makes the score go up. The ones in red at the bottom make the score go down, and the vote meh makes everything go to the middle. Vipers gave it a grapes, navel, and a meh. I think that's fair. In the end, this was sort of just discussing. And so they kind of discussed a topic that if you're interested in it, good for you. And then at the end, they had to pull it back a little bit. Like, you know, not the worst paper either. It's a meh. It's in the middle. I understand that. So, and anyone in chat, you are welcome to vote. Like, there's no further conditions on, yeah, that's part of it, Vipers. They were a little bit wordy. It was hard for me to get through it all. It was a little bit more wordy than I liked. These were, I know you can't really see it behind the emote review page, but like these were wide columns, not a big font. And so even though it was only a 10-page paper, it was a little bit long. They could have got the gist across in paragraph. You know, they could have done it, I think, equally well. Like if they were really, really, really smart, they could have done it in like a paragraph or two. But like they could have done it almost equally as well as probably about half the length here. If this was 5-6 pages, like that would have been perfect. But they did not do that. All right, what am I gonna say? They're getting the grapes too on me. What else we're gonna say? I'm just trying to. This wasn't the worst. They're gonna get a Nog Knife too. This and. Yeah, so like it's more in the middle for me. I don't hate this. This wasn't bad. Like, yeah, it was wordy. It was they sort of didn't really live up to what I was hoping for. That's why they got the grapes. But then again, I don't think their arguments were bad. They said smart things in general. From what they were trying to do, they kind of did that. Kind of. Yeah. Sockna says, I'm saying that I might not agree to something like Botox myself, but I shouldn't prevent it from other people. That's fair. Like, if it's not authentic for you, then it's not authentic. But, like, other people, you know, they want their way they look to match how they feel. And, like, then that may allow them to live the life that they want. Like, for me, you know, it's like you know, you don't always like the way you look. Like, what could you do to fix that? And it's like, I understand you don't want to, you know, get to a point in your life where you're finally happy with everything, but like it took too long. Like you're not young anymore. And now you want to, like, you know, regain a little bit more time so that you can actually get to do some of the things you wanted, but now you look old and people don't treat you the same because you look old. You know, maybe you can fix that now with some tech, have a little bit of fun, and everybody's cool with it. It's just you're not getting judged on your looks anymore. I can understand that. It's like, yeah. It's you know, like a lot of guys dye their hair. A lot of people get Botox nowadays. You know, It's like I got some white hairs here, I think. So, what are you gonna do? Long stream though. Appreciate the ones that, for everyone who stuck around. I appreciate it. I know it's late for some of you people across the pond, but yeah. If anyone else wants to get their votes in, please do now. Do so now. So, you think there's a Nog scream? Then I'll see that there was some Nog turd. Obviously, navel gazing. I vote meh. Okay. You want me to fix that for you? At the end, or do you want to try to use the better TTV emotes? You shaved your head at 24. Yeah, exactly. So some people, what they do is they, you know, they don't dye it. They don't get a wig. They just shave it. It's like, fine. You just don't think about Mr. Brain gives him brain damage every time he tries to express himself. Yeah, that's. I wonder how Mr. Brain Dance is doing. That's a good point. I don't know. Radical acceptance man? Exactly. I mean, some people, I can understand the feeling that you might have missed out on some things. I know I missed out on a lot of shit. That's okay. Everyone misses out on something. It's like you can't do all the things. So it's like, do you want to have a chance? Like sometimes you need to do things to give yourself a chance to go back at things you missed, and you kind of do it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sock. Now I'll fix the Nog Navel. If you want to type in Nog Navel, go right ahead. Otherwise, I'll fix it. Cool. But yeah, so 60 seconds and then see if we can go raid. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, because otherwise I have to go edit text files. But yeah, not like, I don't think this was the worst paper. Like it wasn't. It just wasn't. It didn't present a whole lot of new stuff. Again, like the other papers we were talking about last week, like that was more of a fun talk. Like it had more engaging examples. And this one just sort of like set out some heuristics. I think I'm with Vipers. They could have written this better, but like, what are you going to do?